So today's apple pie milkshake has mango in it instead of tangerines and apples. Well, there's apple pie filling. Anyway, that's this recipe. So strawberry yin yang salsa from this book, The Second Day. James didn't get around to eating it, but today he thinks he can actually eat nacho chips. I brought him out some bread just in case. He's going to talk about The Longest Hatred and a Gunter Grass novel I've never heard of. We'll see how far he gets in his book reviews. But it's a beautiful day to sit outside, so he might get pretty far. So this is my outfit for today. And this skirt was given to me by my little sister. And this top used to fit me really well. It does not anymore. That's the thing about losing weight. You lose it in some places where you'd rather not. But, I mean, you can't control it. I think it was Michelle Pfeiffer said, cheeks or cheeks, you have to choose, or something like that. Something like that. Talking about aging. It's just the way it goes. So, anyway, we'll see if I'm going to go get a fork for James, and James is going to start talking about The Longest Hatred. So this is in, well, it says 3 parts. I didn't notice 3 parts. I noticed 2 parts. But I guess there's 3 parts of it.
I'll look at see if it
But
reminds me of anything.
anyway,
Yeah.
so, but I was watching it, I just didn't notice that it was divided into 3 rather than 2. I noticed that it was definitely divided into 2, but I didn't notice 3. Anyway.
Yeah, so the first one was
And-
about Christianity leading to Nazi ideology. That's
Which
their
is
view.
Hilarious.
The second one
and
was
not right.
was more about the commies in Russia. So I'd start with.
Oh, I do
Crusader
remember
Russia.
that, yeah.
And then it was going from Moses to Mohammed.
I mean, there were some very artistic, making the Star of David into a swastika, transition. But
A couple of them.
it's
Art,
how anybody could, I mean, there's really something very wrong with people who would even suggest that Jewish people are Nazis or
Well, that's the Muslims are together with most of the people
really
that
out
are
there.
hanging
I
out
mean,
on the
you
left
really
wing.
have to be out there
Yeah.
to suggest that.
Almost no person that describes himself self-describes himself as a left winger is friendly to State of Israel, Zionism, or Jews, frankly. And that's even Jewish people. There's some Jewish people who claim they're on the left wing, very critical of Israel.
I wanted to talk about these
They
pants
both done.
for a little bit. You can see them. They're quite tight. They are a size medium, and they are some of the smallest pants that I own. But they're lined, and I guess they're for people who want to go jogging out in the winter or something like that. But honestly, I would not. I'm going to wear these pants for the deck dinner, and I don't think I'll ever wear them out hiking.
They're tight
Because
on the knees
they're
and hips. Huh?
they're tight, and
Good idea.
that's the thing. A lot of the time, you might think, oh well, all of these kind of stretchy jogging kind of pants they'd be about the same. Well, they're very much not. If the fabric doesn't stretch enough, if it isn't, if it's too thick, then it can really cause some problems. So just err on the side of a little loose. I mean, a little tight is not going to work out. It's might lead to some back problems, and then you won't, if your back is hurting, you're probably not going to be too motivated to get out there and hike. And what a beautiful time to be hiking. So got to make the most of it, right? So that's all. I think the brand name is Mondetta or something like that. They're very attractive pants. They have this little pocket in the back that zips up and stuff. I guess that's where you'd put maybe your locker key or something. I don't know. You wouldn't put much in there. It's a very small pocket. But yeah. And then back to the longest hatred. I'm having a hard time staying focused, I guess. Sorry about that.
We don't cover it all here.
Oh, we
We'll
might have to
cover
do
it
a
again.
few rounds of.
Anyway, so the first one, it claims the longest hatred, revealing history of anti-Semitism, and it starts with the Christians.
And well, I have heard people say things like, "Oh well, Jews killed Jesus." Well, some Jews killed Jesus, but Jesus was a Jew, and
so were
his disciples,
apostles,
or whatever.
Presumably, the disciples that were following around.
Yeah.
You know, the disciples would have been. Well, originally, his apostles were disciples, and then some of them were elevated to the position. Some of the disciples were elevated to the position of apostle. Apostle means apo means sent. Stel, apo means away. Stel means sent. So it means to be sent away or something like that.
But then they went on to say, "Oh well, really it was the Romans. The Romans." Or some people were saying they would kill Jesus. Well, really, no. Pontius Pilate did not want. He wasn't eager to.
That's the.
It was.
That's the how we're supposed to follow.
It was actually
they
some
were
Jewish people.
shifting.
Some Jewish people, yes, did kill Jesus,
So,
who was also a Jewish person.
So Pontius Pilate, who was the Roman kind of like tax collector there in the so-called Holy Land. It was still called Judea there, and then there was Galilee to the north, Samaria in the middle. And he didn't really care a fig about Jesus or whatever.
No, because Jesus said, "Well, my kingdom isn't of this world."
Well, he made sure to ask him that.
Whatever. So Pontius Pilate was like,
had asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus' answer was, "My kingdom is not of this world." And Pontius Pilate understood that Jesus was making no claim to this world, and hence Jesus wasn't a
threat to the Roman Empire.
Really the emperor, but empire.
Yeah. Okay.
So Pontius Pilate said to the Jews, the representatives of the Jews, "I find no fault in this man." And they started squawking. And it's important to hear what they were squawking. They're basically threatening Pontius Pilate, who was making a fortune off people in that land, in that area, by collecting taxes. Now, the way this tax collection system worked, and I guess it's through the Roman Empire, if you're appointed something like a tax collector, you'd collect taxes for the Romans, and then you could tax whatever the market would bear to line your own pockets with. So I gather that they didn't spend much time there. They'd go and collect whichever part of the Roman Empire they were assigned to, and then they'd come back and presumably go to some Roman villa from the countryside. Maybe some of them repaired to Pompeii or something like that. And maybe they got toasted. There were a few villas that got toasted by Mount Vesuvius blowing up and stuff like that. When was that? 79 AD or something like that? I remember like it was yesterday. No, I'm not quite that old. But anyway, the Jews initially came from the Fertile Crescent. Their ancestors, and according to their own description, I don't see any problem with the description. Their kind of like history starts in the one end of the Fertile Crescent on the Persian Gulf, Ur of the Chaldees. Chaldees is a designation for where they were coming from. there's an anachronism. The Chaldeans didn't take over that place until much later, maybe as late as 750 BC. So the Jews come from what's called, I think they call it a shatter belt or shatter zone or something like that. And it's an area where that's where they're located now. But they kind of gravitated for a while between the two poles of the Fertile Crescent. Sometimes people don't include Egypt as part of the Fertile Crescent. I think that's a silly concept. Fertile Crescent should include Egypt. There's a very sterile section in between so-called Holy Land and Egypt, which is kind of like part of the Sinai Desert or something like that. But it's easily gotten across, just so long as you store enough water along the way or bring it along with you. And it's easily gotten across. I gather it's pretty flat and all that sort of stuff. Easily gotten across. Yeah, you might get a bit of sunburn or something like that.
You want to switch spots?
No.
I'm not in the sun, really.
It doesn't. Anyway, these shatter zones or shatter belts are located, and you find them in places in the world, the Balkans, in Europe, or that. And they are places, rough areas, mountainous usually, between areas where civilizations develop on plains. So the Balkans are like that. So it's between, the Balkans are between the northern European plain and the high plains of high plateau of Anatolia, present-day Turkey, or whatever. You've got the Caucasus Mountains. There's two ranges there, and it's between the plains heading ultimately to Russia in the north, and to the south again, the plains of Turkey. And you've got what used to be called Indochina, comprising the Empire of Vietnam now, and Thailand, Burma, stuff like that. And it's called Indochina for a reason, because it's kind of located in between, although it's kind of at an angle, between the vast plains of India and the vast plains of China. Someone apparently hasn't heard the speed limits. But long term, the one that's caused the most problems for people living there, and for people, well, it's not really, it's problems that people visit on themselves, for people coming out of Egypt, and people coming out of Mesopotamia, and actually for a while, about 950 BC, 900 BC. That's dated according to carbon-14 dating, and data from eclipses, 4 different eclipses dated by the Egyptian system. And it's really 900 BC. People came into that area from they're called Hittites. It's the Hittite Empire. Came into that area, a little north of the Holy Land. They didn't quite make it down to present-day Israel, whereas some people like to call it, or insist on calling it, Palestine. Palestine is just Philistia, in terms of Hebrew, Palashtu, in terms of Assyrian, Palestine in terms of the designation in Arabic for Palestine, but it comes obviously from Philistia. Philistia is present-day Gaza Strip. Palashtu. In the Assyrian annals, that's history, folks. It's not legend or myth or anything like that, and it wasn't compiled by Jews.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's the
So
Gaza
they had
Strip.
the Roman Church. They were saying that Hitler and the Nazis, like in general in Germany, were influenced by like old Roman gods and stuff like that, and they were trying to say that the Nazis were Christians.
Nazis.
Nazis.
Anyway,
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so
I mean, some of that in there is just like, it's so out there.
So anti-Semitism was way before then. It dates back to whenever some.
I mean, the Egyptians were using them as slaves.
Yeah.
That's-
No, like people will say, "Oh, nationalism is a modern-day phenomenon." Like here's the Egyptian stuff. This is Gamal Abdel Nasser, and we're calling people from the Arabian Peninsula and Sinai Peninsula vile sand dwellers. No, that's not Nasser, nor Sadat. It's the ancient Egyptians. That's what they called people from Asia. The nomads. They didn't call them camel jockeys. They called them, like they threw in an adjective in there. Vile, sand dwellers. What do they call the people to the south of them? Black folks. They called them vile Cush. Cush is basically, that designation is found in the Bible too. It's found in present-day Sudan. Okay, so they call them vile Cush. So get that straight. They were calling them, like in at least the New Kingdom that. Eh? So the New Kingdom, of course, it's misdated by flunky Egyptologists, and basically they're all flunkies, because they set this stupid chronology. But that's before 1200 BC, according to their dating. Yeah, roughly 1200 BC. But we'll say 700 BC. We'll say 1050 to 700 BC. That's what they were calling, even down to 650 BC. They were calling people from southwestern Asia vile sand dwellers, and they were calling black people from the south of them vile Cush. Vile. And get that straight. Now, so they kind of didn't treat the Hebrews, the predecessors of the Jews, very nicely, and they would have seen them as being, like the Bible talks about it. I don't know why they'd really be making it up. We can see what the Egyptians thought of it. But they were saying, it says in the Bible that the Egyptians didn't care much to hang with the Jews. Okay. Or the Hebrews, the predecessors of the Jews. Okay. Then we go a little bit later, and the Assyrians were quite a bit later. Well, not really when you're dealing with it. Well, it's a lot later from the time of the Egyptian captivity. That would have ended roughly, it might be almost exactly 1866 BC. That's a redating. That's just the way it goes. That's based on actual data overlapping with Mesopotamia, stuff like that. It's not the accepted chronology, the very, very conventional chronology of Egyptologists. And it's something that they've got to toe the line about, or else they don't go anywhere in Egyptology. Or if they decide to change their mind, they'd get hounded out of universities. Witch hunted. No, let's call a spade a spade. The people who ended the New Kingdom under revised chronology, 5 minutes?
10.
Yeah. Were actually the Assyrians. So, the Hebrews had a while where they were, the Egyptians around 950 BC. This is a revised chronology. Maybe a little bit later. Between 950 and 900 BC, they sacked the temple and stuff like that. The pharaoh's name is given in the Bible as Shishak. That would be a weird transmogrification, but not that weird, of Sese or Sheshe, which would be, we already know Sese, Sheshe is an Egyptian abbreviation for Ramesses, Ramses II. He started ruling almost surely when he was young. It would be what do they call it? Hyperchoristicon. Basically a diminutive. Here's this little guy who's prince and he's on the throne. Even earlier than him, in terms of age, was a guy called Thutmose or Thutmose. Oh, see, the Sese would be short for Messe, 2 S's.
So, just to be clear, though, none of this is in.
It's not in here.
No,
and
it's not
this
in
is
there.
the criticism of it. Because I started probably this. It's
it's the longest hatred and they didn't do enough.
They
There's
start-
a lot of history to go through,
And
they
I'm going to go
didn't
through
seem,
it
they
in
didn't
detail.
seem to do it here.
They didn't.
They
They
just-
they start with Christianity.
Yeah, and
And what they're doing is they're picking on a straw man when they when they start with Christianity.
I mean, it
So
could be
I'm
said
going
that
into detail
there
here.
probably
It's gonna
are a lot of Christians who are not very friendly towards Jewish people because of the whole Jesus getting killed thing. But it could be said that the Jewish people who were responsible for killing Jesus actually killed their own God. It could be said, that could be said.
Yeah.
And
So we're getting ahead of things. It's important to deal with what you're talking about. This is going to take maybe several editions. I'm going to go through the history and show where the anti-Semitism really starts. So I hope you don't mind, but I'll be doing several. I'm not wrapping it up now. You see what I'm saying?
okay.
Okay?
I don't think anyone else will have this on hold. It's a rather...
Yeah. Well, I don't have to have it in hand. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? Look at this. We'll, I guess it's due, so we'll return it. And the longest hateful. Yeah? So I don't have to have it in hand or anything like that.
And I mean, there's things in there where even when they get to the third part, which I guess they didn't want to deal with the most important part, which is the third part, first. They wanted to try to share the hatred around a little bit or something like that, right? But they were talking about the Christians at, the Romans, I guess, attacking the Temple Mount, but it wasn't the it's always the Temple Mount, but it wasn't being controlled by Jewish people at that point.
They did sack the temple. I mean,
Yeah.
there are all sorts of fake left-wingers who are going around. You can't be a real left-winger and be anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist, anti-State of Israel. You just can't. Because they're actually... The left wing comes from the French Parliament, where the people on the left-hand side of the Parliament were for democracy. You cannot be for enemies of Israel, where Israel has the only functioning democracy in the Middle East, and be supporting dictators, fascists, Nazis, Muslim terrorists against them. You can't. You're not a Democrat.
You can't be for, say, native rights and be against Jewish people in Israel.
Yeah. The argument, of course, is... Okay, continue.
No, you go ahead.
Is repeated ad nauseum. It's argumentum ad nauseum. I think I'm the one who didn't invent it, but invented the designation. Edward Said is very good at it. It's just repeating the argument again and again and again, pounding it into your skull. And it's, we're the victims of the victims, he's saying, portraying himself as a Palestinian. I think some of his ancestors came from Egypt. And he himself, I think his immediate parents came from Lebanon. But at any rate, we are the victims of the victims. No, they're not. They are invaders. Somewhere along the line, he says, he's basically saying, we, the Palestinians, are we're more cosmopolitan than the Jews or something like that, more multi-ethnic and stuff like that, because we're the descendants of Romans. We include that in our descent. Romans, Greeks, does he say Persians? No, those are conquerors. And I'm getting around to it. I guess I'll have to do it tomorrow. But those are conquerors. And yes, the Romans, when they took over a place like Palestine, particularly when they cleared people out like they did in 70 and 135 AD in Israel, or as people seem to prefer to call it, in very, very, it's offensive. fashion Palestine, they gave land, I don't know if you knew this, to Roman soldiers. There you go. There,
Yeah,
so
and well, it would
Edward
be
Said
like-
is right. They are, some of them are descended from Roman soldiers. And, hey, that would be like people here saying, hey, I'm Métis, and
Yeah.
my rights preclude totally the rights of the real natives. Totally.
Or,
It doesn't work out that way.
or it'd be like if the Blackfoot people were on Blackfoot land.
Hmm.
If the Blackfoot people had been encouraged to go elsewhere or whatever, or been forced out.
Well, that's what
It'd be
happened
like
with the Jews.
Forced out, yeah. If they'd been forced out and then all of a sudden they're getting killed wherever they go and they have nowhere else to go and they want to come back to their ancestral home, and we said, oh, no, you can't. It's
We're the natives
it's
here
not
now.
not your home.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's what it would be like. And so people
And that's
look at
that's what actually happened.
yeah. So people look at Israel and they go, oh, well, this is just some made up country that they put in the, you know, it was already the land was already occupied by somebody else.
Just because you occupy a land doesn't
But
mean you got.
that
I mean,
was their
white folks are
ancestral land.
occupying here. It doesn't give them a right to terrorize indigenous people. You know, indigenous people kind of are looking for things like self-government, but you don't see any Arabs or Muslims going around, well, we should be setting up, you know, like legitimizing amongst ourselves self-government for Jews. You know, some people are yip-yapping about
Yeah.
two-nation
And well,
solution.
we
but
met, well,
don't mean
James
it.
was talking to somebody that was from a very different kind of cultural, religious background from, where was it?
Was that yesterday?
Yeah.
I ran across for the first time in my life a Yazidi and his wife, 2 kids. And
And apparently that guy said that his life has even been threatened here in Canada. It's like James has
it's like
said
I
before,
said in 2001, we're
that-
the last refuge of the refugees. But after Salman Rushdie was almost taken out in Chicago, we're no longer that. United States, Canada, any of the
There's nowhere.
democracies. We've let in scumbugs
Yeah.
who don't believe one iota in democracy, and their true allegiance lies in India or in China or in the Middle East, in much of Europe. It'd be Turkey, much of, but really Muslims, believing Muslims. I'm not going to say fundamentalists. I'm talking about mainstream Muslims believe in having one rule for themselves and ultimately for the whole world. Their promised land is the whole world. Wake up and smell the anthrax before it kills you. How much time? 30?
A minute.
Yeah. So I'm going to deal more with the history. We left off, and we're going to be starting off with the Assyrians. Not Syrians, Assyrians. And the Assyrians exist in your lifetime. Barely. Because ISIS was wiping them out. Why? They're the real natives of Iraq, the northern part of it. And they're Christians. Hmm? You haven't been told this. And I'm telling you, you people are skeptical about it. You should know about it. The natives of Egypt aren't Muslim, they aren't Arab. They're Copts, they're Christians. Eh? Natives of Syria are not Arab. The native of southern Iraq, northern Iraq are not Arab. The natives of Turkey are not Turks. Wake up and smell the coffee. Eh? You just sit here and look at me and look at how mad I am at some of you people out there.